Hello and welcome to the University of Dutch. I am your co-host, JP John Paz, aka the Doctor. Oh, look at that, $5 from the two-man power trip of wrestling. Of course, joining me is the smartest man ever in the history of the business, the Dirty Dutchman himself, Dirty Dutch Mantel. Dutch, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How you doing, John?
Doing good. Can't
How's the
complain.
how's the weather?
Cold. I don't know why, but cold.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it don't get well. It does. I'm in Florida now, so it does get cold in Florida, but you only got like 5 days of winter, which just surprised me. This year we had like 10 days, or maybe 3 weeks. It was really much colder than what you ordinarily associate with Florida.
Yes.
So this is the first time we've done questions from fans. So, do we have anybody in here yet, or no?
Not yet, no. So we could talk about your favorite pay-per-view of all time, Victory Road
Oh,
2011.
oh my God! Start reading them off. Will now let it be known publicly that at this time I was not with the company. What months were these?
So this is March 13th, 2011.
Okay. Toward the end of 2011, I went to India. And we should do a podcast about the Indian, the Ring King excursion that
Ooh,
I did
yeah.
for about. I went down there in December 2011 for 2 weeks, and we did 13 shows, or maybe we did 14 shows. Then we came home for Christmas and New Year's. Then we went back after New Year's for another, I think it was like 10 days. And we did another 12 shows. And it's funny, I don't think any territory, I'll just talk about it a little bit right now, that any territory has ever been started like this, because the TV show, the TV station was called Colors. And so they actively advertise for wrestlers, and they did tryouts. And I think we got something like, I don't know, 12 or 14 Indian wrestlers, and actually trained them in India. I think we sent Savio Vega and Eugene. Remember Eugene?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I think we sent him over there along with Savio Vega, and they trained these guys for about 2 weeks. That's it. And then we put them on TV. And the first match on the show, leading off the series, and the first time we went over there, was a guy who not only had never been on TV before, he had never had a match before. And we put him with Eugene. Eugene carried him through, and it wasn't too bad. It was a great setup, because they let the people in for free, and we could have made more money, let them in for free, and charge them to get out. That's what we should have done. But no, it wasn't too bad. And then of course we had our American wrestlers, and we ended up doing 26 shows in a city called Pune, Pune. I think this is where they said Pune, India, which is about 45 minutes or an hour from Mumbai. And this is a crazy thing. The flight nonstop from New York is 18 hours. An 18-hour flight. I was even unaware that a plane could fly that long without getting refueled. And I think the first time we went straight. Second time we went like to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, or Paris. We stopped there. Then we flew down. And that does break it up a little bit if you go to Paris. Then you go down. Then you fly forever. You know, it's about 8 hours. You're flying over Africa, which is wild, crazy. And you can just look down and you're flying over Nigeria someplace. And you could look in your seats. You know, they have the little screen that says where you are, how fast you're flying, what your altitude is, and it kind of keeps you informed on where you are and when you're expected to land. So
Wow.
we landed about 12 o'clock. Everybody was beat, tired. And you get off, and it gets pretty hot in India. Now I don't know if India is south of the equator or not, but this was like December, and it was still pretty warm there. So anyway, but we should talk about that a little more. That's an interesting.
You remember Doug Masters? He says, "Hello, Dutch." Remember Doug?
Doug, I do remember Doug.
Yes.
He's
USWA,
he's
Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's from Minneapolis, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Doug, correct us if we're wrong there. But
Yeah.
good
Doug,
question here, though.
Yeah.
Good question. Why didn't TNA ever make Scott Steiner the world champion? Music World Treasures.
And he said,
why didn't you make him the champion?
Hell, I don't know. It wasn't up to me. I mean, well, the deal is, it's not. He didn't need the world championship, to tell you the truth.
Right.
He didn't need it. I mean, sometimes you put it on guys that can carry it. All Scott wanted to do was go in there and just beat people up. But he was over. So that's. I mean, I loved his interviews. Had it was up to me, I wouldn't even have him wrestle. I just have him do interviews. Actually, I got a private collection of Scott Steiner interviews in there in my living room. I feel a little depressed sometimes. I just listen to him. When he gets into the mathematical equations, that to me is the greatest interview ever performed. And I don't know if he just came up with it on the spot, but it and nobody knew he was going to do it. And he did that like you have 2/3 of a chance, whatever he did. Yeah. I can't even remember what he did, but it was very good. So
yeah, Joe, you got 33 and 1/3% chance. He was going on and on. Yeah, that was great.
And it got down to they may had a 1% chance of beating him. That's what it totaled down to.
Yeah.
All right. So are we going to talk about this pay-per-view or what?
Yeah. So Victory Road 2011, March 13th, 2011. Orlando, Florida, obviously the Impact Zone, 1,100 people, sardined canned in there, only 10,000 buy rates, supposedly. So not a very popular show here. So what I could find, only 10,000 on the buy rate. Pretty low.
Well, I don't know anyway, because I've said this time and time again. We never got an accurate buy rate. From one pay-per-view to the next, See, you need to know the buy rates. We kept trying to tell Dixie Carter, we need to know at least an accurate, just to give us the range. It's where it is. Is it better or less? But she would give us, it was 10% better than last show. And I've said this before. Well, the last show could have had 100 buys. So right, 10% better, we'd have 110 buys. So while it got better, it's still horrible. We never got the buys. We didn't know. Actually, we were like in the middle of the ocean and didn't have a compass. If you were judging what you were doing, and you need the buy rate to kind of ascertain. You like that word, John? Ascertain.
Yeah, pretty good.
To determine whether you're on the right path or not. But since we never got accurate information, you put crap in, you get crap out. And that's what we were guessing the whole time. Just guessing. But anyway, okay, give me the first match.
No DQ, falls count anywhere. Bully Ray versus Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer gets the win, 10 minutes, 45 seconds.
And if you ever seen them in ECW, it's the same thing here. Did it have any tables?
Yes.
Did it have any chairs? Did it have any
finish.
Chairs?
Yep.
They had that. Have anything else? Whatever they could find, they used. And since I wasn't there, but you gotta be careful when you open up a card like that, because the next match, if it's a wrestling match, it's going to suck, because they're used to seeing the wide open stuff.
Yeah.
and then you go up here, you enter on an intensity level of here, and then you come up with the wrestling match, and then it drops to here. Well, you really want it to raise a little bit, but they never listened to me anyway. So anyway, if it was on a scale from 1 to 10, I guess I'd give it a 5. Now, let it be known, unless I've already said this, and you got to remind me, I was not in TNA at this particular time. I had already, I'd been gone about 2 years almost, year and a half anyway.
Yeah, this is the Bischoff Hogan era.
Well, I wasn't there doing any of that. So, and I don't know.
Do you not like Bischoff and Hogan?
No, they're all right. There's nothing to do with them. And that's what happens is when you want a new regime to take over, you take out the people that were there before and make it I guess in their eyes, a complete overhaul. But it's according to what you want to overhaul it with. I mean, we could be auto technicians, but if you bring in a bunch of computer specialists, they're not going to fix any cars. And I don't know if it would be that drastic, but
I'll go back and forth between some of the questions because some more questions popping in. What's the favorite company you've ever worked for? Then I'll get back to the pay-per-view.
My favorite company I ever worked for?
Yep.
Hang on a minute. Man, I'm dying here.
Little Sprite Zero?
Memphis and Puerto Rico when I booked it. And there's one southeastern territory and Knoxville. I mean, that's about the same thing. But those were fun territories to work and basic wrestling. And we told good stories. Of course, we had an hour show. We didn't have 2 hours or 3 hours. I think the third hour in WWE kind of negates the 2 hours before it.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it just takes away. Of course, you can't deny that they're making money off that last hour. I mean, they're making a killing on it. So, and does the show make sense? I don't think it does. But my favorite territory is Memphis, number 1. I think Puerto Rico, when he wasn't trying to kill me, number 2. And
were you there when
Southeastern.
Were you there when Brody died? Was a question.
Yes, I was. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up. On May the 14th, I'm going to be in St. Louis at the Bruiser Brody Memorial Show. And I didn't even know this company. I think it's SICW, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they had Bruiser Brody Memorial tribute shows till they called me, about a month or so ago, asked me would I come. I said, yeah. And I'm going up there, and I'm going to, and Bruiser Brody's wife's going to be there, Barbara. She's going to be there.
I think she'll be there May 7th at Wrestle in New Jersey too, right? You'll be there? 80s Wrestling Con.
She said she thought I was on the card. I hadn't heard nothing about it.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. I don't know. So, but anyway, I'm going to meet her for the first time in St. Louis. I talked to her the night it happened in Puerto Rico.
Right.
I called her and when it happened, Brody went to the hospital, and when the show was over, I went to the hospital, but I couldn't see Brody. And I just wanted to see how he was. And then I went back to the hotel and stopped by the desk and said if Bruiser got any calls, put them through to my room. And it was about, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang, and it was Barbara. And she wanted to know what was happening. And I've told the story several times. So, I mean, what are you going to say? He's in the hospital and he's it's nip and tuck. Yeah, I just told her that I thought it would be wise if she would probably get to Puerto Rico as soon as she could.
Right.
And when she said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, I said it was an accident. There was an accident, and he got hurt. He's in the hospital now." And I tried to say not any more than I needed to say to stop her from be unduly alarmed. I mean, she should have been alarmed if she'd known the gravity of it, but she was in San Antonio. Puerto Rico was 2,500 miles away. You can only get there so fast.
Right.
So, and I never talked to her again until, I don't know, a couple of years ago. But still, I didn't meet her. So this is going to be the first time I'm going to meet her, which I'm glad to meet her. She lives in Florida now too. She's probably 100 miles from me, and I still haven't met her. But I'm looking forward to seeing the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing her, and plus the two guys who helped produce Dark Side of the Ring.
Yep.
They're going to be there, and I've met them before. Or maybe I haven't. Maybe I just met them off. See, don't get hit on the head a couple 100,000 times because you can't remember shit.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, they're there. And I think I just know them off Zoom calls. So.
Hey, speaking of that show, Herb Simmons, the guy who runs SICW, Dutch, looking forward to seeing you on St. Louis
that's him.
May 14th for the Bruiser Brody Memorial. Yeah, there's Herb. Nice. Look at that.
That's him.
Yeah, look at that.
So I'm pushing the show. I think it.
Yeah, he's promoting it for you, Herb. Come on.
I think it'll do well. I hope for their good. It does well, and I'm glad they're keeping Bruiser's name, alive, because he was one of a kind. I don't think there'll ever be another Brody. There'll never be another Abdullah. There'll never be another Stan Hansen. I mean, those are legends that you just don't remake them overnight. I mean, they can be guys that could probably do what they do, but WWE's not going to let them do that. They don't want them to do that. And that's one reason I asked Brody one time why he didn't work in WWE. He worked up there one time, but they wasn't going to let him cut loose and do what he wanted to do. So I think he might have made, I don't know, a short run there. And when you're talking about New York, that's where Brody and that Invader guy first got involved with each other. In New York, they would promote like an Irishman, or they would promote an Italian, or they would promote like a Hispanic guy, or Puerto Rican. So they had that guy, Jose Gonzalez, and I think they were going to push him just a little bit. But he worked with Brody, and Brody ate him up. He beat the crap out of him. And I don't think that Invader guy ever forgot it. And it may have had something to do later on of this happening in Puerto Rico. Can't say for sure, who knows. But that was a crazy, wild night. I wrote about it in my book. My first book was The World According to Dutch. You can find these books on Amazon, by the way. And the second book is Tales from a Dirt Road, which I thought was a great title, to tell you the truth.
I agree.
And it's old time stories. It's stories from the road. And it doesn't follow a linear process. It doesn't start, I started in 1981 and blah, 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 and this happened and this happened. And then right. I hate that son of a bitch over there. He screwed me. Yeah, it's not like that. I tell stories, and they don't all involve me. I was just a bystander, maybe. But pretty funny, pretty easy to read. Stone Cold read it one night, he told me. He said, "You son of a bitch," I started reading that damn book now. And they're not long chapters either, 8 pages or whatever. Then you're done with it. It's like now you can go to the next story. He said, "I read one story and said I was going to quit, and then I read another and half four, and knew it, and night was over, and I read the whole damn thing.
Nice.
But he enjoyed the book. So, sorry, what was the question now?
So let's just mention the next match for Victor Road. Tag Team Women's Knockout Championship. Sarita and Rosita versus Angelina Love and Winter. Rosita ends up getting the win for the team as she pins Winter. What do you think about the Knockouts tag titles at this point?
I don't know. I had
Is
nothing
that
to
too
do
much?
with them.
Too many titles for the women, though, you think? Or you liked having women's tag titles?
I don't know where it came from. I didn't institute it. But see, there is the thing. Like, I think they got too many titles in WWE. I get them confused. I mean, I'm watching the show diligently. You like that word again? Diligently.
Yeah, look at that, man.
Very serious. I'm watching this show.
Yeah.
And then they got the red brand, and the blue brand, and the US brand, and this brand, and whatever. Then the X brand or whatever. Then they had the 205. I don't know. Just give me. We used to have one belt and one tag belt. That's it. I mean, we didn't have junior heavyweights and all that stuff. That came later. But a lot of guys didn't even want the junior heavyweight title because that actually classified them as not being top tier. I've had guys say, no, don't put that belt on me. I don't want that one. And they didn't. But, yeah, I don't think having the women's tag team title, you don't have that many women to start off with. We only had like 8 or 10. So you would only have 5 teams if you put them all together. But I think just have one championship, have everybody chase a single championship, and you're okay. So, like I said, I was completely out of the company by the time this pay-per-view happened, and so I'll probably be pretty brutal on it. Next question.
They had Hernandez defeated Matt Morgan in a first blood match, went about 8 minutes, was not very good. What do you think about Hernandez? Did you like him, Sean Hernandez?
I liked him. I didn't like him in the ring.
Really?
You know, because no, he couldn't talk, first of all, and he looked good. He needed a manager is what he needed. And he really needed to be, I think, to full effect, he needed to be a heel first, that he wasn't. Well, he may have been. But he used to have Conan. Conan was the team. I mean, Hernandez was the worker, but Conan was the face.
Yeah.
He was the team. And Matt Morgan, it's 2 big guys working, and you said the match wasn't very good?
Yeah.
Well, then imagine that. Wonder why. And you know why it wasn't very good? You didn't have a general. Who led who? That's like the blind. And this is not a knock on either one of them. It's like the blind leading the blind. You know, I've worked with guys coming up. They would teach me as we had the match. That's where you got to watch. You got to listen. And then when you come out of the ring, you got to go to the guy and say, well, why did you do that? And he'll tell you. But he's not going to tell you in the ring, but he'll tell you in the back. And that's how you learn. Because sometimes you just got to do stuff and you think, I don't know why he's doing this. Then when he tells you, then it makes sense. But see, in this match, neither one was teaching each other anything. And actually, they were harming each other. And still, they didn't even know that. So that's why the match, I don't even think you could work an angle with them to even get it hot. You probably could warm it up, but I don't think you could ever get it hot.
Who is the worst booker of all time from PJ Blake? That is a great question. Who's the worst booker of all time?
The worst?
Yep.
Well, a lot of people say Vince Russo, but Vince wasn't a booker. Vince was a writer. So if you tell Vince, and I think he'll agree with me, if you tell Vince, what do you want to do in this match? Well, he can't tell you what to do. He can maybe suggest who needs to win, and that's about it. See, what I think happened in TNA's case here, they let the talent come up with basically their own finish. And
Yeah.
and you're supposed to have a producer that when the two guys get together, and he said, "All right, what you got?" They come out, well, we're going to do this and this and this and this. Well, it's the agent's job to say, take that out and take that out. Why don't we put this in here? And see, it's the agent's job to coordinate with the other agents to see if any of the finishes are similar. And I don't even know if they did that.
Right.
So the worst bookers that they didn't used to be bad bookers because they get fired. But if you had a guy stay around 2 or 3 years, he's a pretty decent booker. I mean, right off the top of my head, I can't really say who's not good, but because they don't have the job for long.
True.
See, because bookers years ago in the old territory days, you had like maybe 5 or 6 bookers that were known as bookers. So if he finished up in Florida, he'd make a call and he could go to work in, say, Charlotte. Not maybe as a booker, but as a agent or on the team. So there's been a lot of actually good bookers, and some of them are not the really outgoing types. A lot of good bookers are kind of quiet and have. See, I was lucky because I watched Eddie Graham as he worked and what he did. And one thing about booking is you got to, of course, you got to watch the booker, but it's like a second string baseball player. He stays in the dugout most of the game. He only goes in maybe to pitch hit or if somebody gets hurt. But the whole time he's in the dugout, he's watching the manager manage the game, and it's a great place. He'll get up and say, "Why did you pinch hit Bagwell for Smith? Why?" And he says, "Well, the pitcher's a left-hander, and he's a left-hander, and or however that works." Now today they just study stats. This guy hits better against left-handers than right-handers.
Yep.
And that's why a lot of the baseball clubs, their
Analytics. Yeah.
right, their talent payroll went down because they'd rather a guy, instead of hitting home runs, they just want him to get him on base. See, the home run hitters strike out a lot. So, in analytics, and Tony Khan, I met him in Jacksonville when I was with WWE, and he told me that's what he was in. He was in analytics, and they were trying to sell that formula or that whatever he had to colleges. And actually, the way he described it made sense. So I wished him good luck. I just met him one time. But the good bookers, they've been good ones and they've been crappy ones. So by and large, say Memphis, it only had like 2 or 3 or 4 bookers the whole time I was there. I was one of them. They would have Jarrett for a while, and then when football season, a lot are always booked during the summer.
Right. Brown season. Yeah. You can't be doing that. Yeah.
And when football started, he'd done. I mean, he'd make the TV and, do Monday night. But, hey, when Sunday rolled around, he was in Cleveland or wherever they were. He was watching the Browns play. And then after football season was over, then, he would come back in and he'd book in the spring and the summer. And then Jarrett would take over in the fall. Then Dundee would take over sometimes. And then I forgot what happened. I don't think any of them were around at one point. So they said, "Hey, you want to book it?" And I said, "Well, I'll try it." It didn't do too bad. Didn't do too good. But that was when we had the WWF all over the place. So all the territories were dying.
The global expansion.
Once you see that big that circus roll into town, your little carnival atmosphere don't work anymore. So,
True. So here's a good question from Mr. Iron Bodybuilding. When Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan came in, did it help or hurt TNA? Did it help or hurt the company?
I don't think it hurt them. But I don't think it helped them. To tell you the truth. Again, I wasn't there, but, and I've told you this story before. See, when talent like Hogan or some guys come in, when it was time for him to do something to help the company, well, he didn't do anything to help WWE. He wouldn't put nobody over because that would hurt him. Don't even look at him, and I don't think he put anybody over in TNA because they looked at it through two sets of lens. One set is the TNA set, which is right now. How would it make me? How would it affect my position now? But the other one was the hidden lens that nobody saw, but they looked at it through the lens of WWE. It's like, what if Vince sees this? What if he sees me get beat in this company down here? And it kind of made sense, really. But I don't think it hurt them, helped them. It should have helped them a great deal. They did one over 2 rating with Hogan. They did over 1, I heard. And then the rest of them were just average ratings. I think he did a 2.1, which is huge. That's like 3 million people, I think, then. But we're usually doing 2 million anyway, almost. We was doing a 2.4. I think he did like a 4 or 3 something. I don't know. But it didn't show. See, Hogan wouldn't make any house shows. He just did the TV. So if you're not going to do house shows, that's part of your income. And I don't know what they paid him. Whatever it was, I don't think he was worth it. But it wasn't up to me. I wasn't paying the money, and I wasn't setting. It was Hogan to set his own rates. So, but I don't think it hurt him or helped him. What was that guy's name? The bodybuilder guy. Do I still what?
Mr. Iron Bodybuilder. But do you still talk to Jacob and Eli Blue, A.K. Ron and Don Harris? Do you still talk to those
I talked
guys?
to him about a month ago. I talked to Ron. Yeah, a little bit. So
what's he up to?
They're in Nashville. They got a job as, and their job is incumbent upon concerts. They're like not necessarily the concert business, but the setup for the concerts. See, they worked a long time with, what's the guy's name? Brown. What's his name?
Jackson Brown?
Not Jackson Brown. Sawyer Brown.
Oh, Sawyer. Okay. Yep.
They worked, and they were childhood friends growing up in Apopka, Florida, I think. And they knew him through school, and they came to Tennessee to start wrestling, and they stayed in contact. And Sawyer Brown wanted to get into the music business. They were already in Nashville, so he came up because he already knew Ron and Don. And then you saw Sawyer Brown; he was a big success. And now I don't know what he's doing now. I think he's I don't know if he still does concerts or not. I'm sure he does, but I think they're working with not necessarily with Sawyer, but a group that does concert setups. I mean, they're going there. They look at the floor plan, and they know what the band does, and it's pretty well kind of written in stone is how you set your stuff up. But setting up for a concert is like setting up for a wrestling match, a WWE wrestling match. There's a lot of work to it, but they're doing good. So
just want to mention the 4th match on this show. Kazarian defeats Jeremy Buck, Max Buck, and Robbie E with Cookie in an Ultimate X match to retain the X Division title, 14 minutes. Did you like the Ultimate X and the idea of that match?
Well, it was when I first heard it, kind of convoluted, and you have to have a ladder. So I thought it was, like I said, it was convoluted. I mean, it's not a simple match. So you have to take, and I did like working with the X Division wrestlers because they are very creative. And when you get up there where that belt is, you're about 12, 14 feet off the floor. That's a pretty good little hop down to the floor of the ring. And but I don't know who came up with this match. It was okay because it was different. I've never seen it done anywhere else. But was the buzz there about it? I don't think so.
So the next match, Beer Money defeats Inc. with the DWI to retain the tag titles in about 12 minutes. Beer Money, love them. Great team. I know James Storm is your boy, but great team.
Yep. That was a match.
It was pretty good, actually. Inc. Shannon Moore, Jesse Neal. Shannon Moore especially, very good.
Yeah. They're all inked up.
Yes. Yep.
That's what Jesse Moore?
Jesse Neal and Shannon Moore.
Oh, Shannon Moore runs he does he runs several tattoo shops.
Yep.
In North Carolina, I think. He's a pretty good guy. And they had a pretty good match. But James was pretty creative. I don't think his partner was that creative. I think that team was all James, really. And when James wants to go, he'll turn in some great matches. But sometimes he don't give a crap.
Yes. Yep.
And the match is still good, but it's not what is possible for him to produce or for him to do.
Just going back a few minutes back to Brody, Herb Simmons wrote, "Can't wait to get Dutch here. He's had Stan and Abby in past year events." There's pretty amazing to get them there.
Oh yeah, I mean
and
those
Brody,
guys. Yeah,
and Brody worked for Vince Senior a few times, so you were right. He did work.
Yeah,
there.
not much.
Yeah,
and I think Brody told me one time he just didn't like the layout of the horizon there. Because Brody's the type who's going to do what Brody's wanting to do. I mean, you tell him what you want, but you're going to get what he wants to give you. And what are you going to do? I mean, if you get mad at him, what are you going to do? I mean...
Yeah, nothing.
Well, you can get cussed by it. That's about it. And the only thing see, when you book Brody, you get Brody. You don't get any, if he didn't like it. See, like that match with Lex Luger, that Luger climbed out over the cage. I mean, Brody didn't care. And Lex knew he didn't have a chance with him anyway, so you've seen the match, right?
Oh my God, yeah. He's literally scared half to death, yeah. Somebody here, Ashley put, Lex is still trying to make Brody sell, LOL. Yes.
Yeah, right.
He literally got out of town and never came back.
He blew up trying to get him to sell. He ran out of breath punching Brody, and Brody's letting him do it. But Brody knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Brody just going, rrr, rrr, and he's punching away, and Lex is looking at him. He's looking at the fans like, what do I do? And hell, you see the fans going, I don't know. It's your match. You figure it out. But anyway, I don't think Brody ever got mad at him. And I don't even know what happened in that match. But I think Brody, I mean, I don't think he liked to finish, whatever it was going to be. I don't even know what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, any more questions?
So, any truth from Vanderstar? Any truth to the story that they tried to get Invader to take a booking in Japan to kill him? Any truth to that?
I'd heard that. I don't know if to kill him. But I think he was smart enough not to go because I don't think it would have boded well for Mr. Invader over there. because Brody in Japan is a god. He's literally Brody, Abdullah, Hansen. They're like gods over there.
No doubt. Yep.
I mean, I used to, and I've been a couple of times, but only one time was I on a tour with Brody. Abdullah wasn't there. But Abdullah, when Brody would go to the ring, and see, it was hard to figure out what Brody was there because Brody was Brody. Didn't matter who he worked with, he was going to be Brody. Whether he worked with the hottest baby face in the country, in the company. So he was still going to be Brody. He'd go to the ring swinging that chain. Those kids would run, and adults would run. And you've heard about the Japan audiences, right?
Oh yeah.
They don't get overly excited. Only on the comebacks of the baby face, they go wow, wow, and that's it. And then when that was over, they'd just sit down again. So
just going back to the pay-per-view, AJ Styles defeats Matt Hardy in about 17 minutes. That was actually probably the best match on the show.
mm-hmm.
So AJ beats Hardy, but then they go into this Karen Angle, Jeff Jarrett honeymoon angle where they have it throughout the show. Did you think that's a little too close to home? Jarrett, Karen Angle, Kurt Angle, obviously, mentioning stuff, teasing stuff, and then showing them on a honeymoon and stuff?
That was a high spot of the show, to tell you the truth. Kurt knew about it.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody got mad about it. But it was in the news. I mean, it was actually, you read more about that than you actually read about the matches.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't have anything to do with booking it or even writing for it. But I think it was okay. I think Jeff he came off better there than he did trying to be a heel. Because what you saw there was Jeff. That's the way he normally is. He's high energy and, and aloof, and laughing, but that's Jeff. And then I think you saw Karen telling him to shut the hell up. And when they went to one of the parks in Orlando. But actually, I thought that was one of the high spots of the show, really, to tell you the truth. And yeah, it was close to home, but that's what wrestling is. If you got something that they either believe it or they don't. So when people see this, like you said, isn't that close to home? But it made you think about it. So, yes or no?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, and it makes you think, wow, this is real, like kind of stuff.
And so what have I told you before? Because that's where you want to get those people. You got over here. Let me get over here. Over here where it's all bullshit. And over here, well, I don't know if it is or not. But you got this little 10% lane that if you get people in, you got them. And by you thinking that, well, this is a little too much, this is real. And I mean, I think they could have done a lot more with that than what they ended up doing. But, and there's a long story behind all this anyway that they didn't tell people about. But it was interesting, to tell you the truth. It was behind the scenes. It was interesting.
So then they have a number one contenders match, RVD versus Ken Anderson. Match goes 13 minutes, double countout. So no winner in a number one contenders match. Is that not good booking or what? That sounds
I
like
don't think it is. No. Get you a winner. Get you a winner one way or the other. No DQ doesn't help anybody. Not in that. I don't think. I'm going to put RVD over and go from there. So you can beat heels without too much after effects. You beat the baby faces too many times, they're dead. But see, the heels have the edge because they can actually cheat to win, according to how they do it. I think sometimes when you're doing those matches every week and you're doing a pay-per-view, you're doing 5 major shows a month, and you don't have strong leadership, which TNA I don't think ever had, really. And that's what you get. I mean, anybody, a first-year wrestling guys watch wrestling for 1 year, can watch the show, and he can immediately tell you if he liked it or not. And most of them says, eh. And see, that is, I don't give a crap one way or the other. Some of it's bad and some of it's not too bad. But, and so it's, eh. And that's what you don't want to hear. So I was a show, eh.
Right.
You don't want to hear that, because if you hear, eh, that means that I can miss the show and I won't be missing anything. But if the guy said, man, you need to see the match between so-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, really? Yeah. That's what I want to hear. Now it's got a good recommendation, so I can go and enjoy the show. Make sense?
Yep. Good question here from Brian Carpenter. The 28 fall Texas death match with Lawler, Dundee, and Buddy Landell in Memphis. What was the original plan for the match going in? Anything before the match you guys discussed going into it? One of the greatest matches ever anywhere, in my opinion.
Well, thank you very much. But the finish was set before we went out there. We were supposed to go like 7 falls, 8 falls, something. Nothing was set. We just said, let's do this and this and this. Okay. And we ended up, and it wasn't 28, I think it was 26, I think. And it took, and sometimes these falls would only be like a minute long, the whole fall. And I remember I lost the 3 of the last falls right in a row, because you got a rest stop, you got a rest break. So sometimes I was pinning myself so I could get the 30-second rest break. And I told Lance, I said, Lance, if somebody says something, you need to bring that up. And that kind of makes sense, because I was actually, because falls didn't count. It's who couldn't answer the bell. So I think when we got to the 8th fall, and then we went to the 9th fall, and because I was having a good time. We were all having, that's one of the most enjoyable matches I've ever been in. Because the fans were enjoying the hell out of it. It was like we were having as good a time as the fans were watching it. So, and I think about the 10th fall or something, I said, I looked at Lawler, I said, how long are we going in this? He said, hell, I don't know. Did we get tired, I guess? He said, are you tired? I said, no, not really. He said, well, let's keep going. We got 15 falls, 16 falls. Now the people are starting to set up. Say, whoa, this is something new. We've never seen a match like this. Then we got to 20. Now they're saying, wow. I mean, and Lance Russell was such a great announcer. He can make reading out of the phone book sound exciting.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
He was great. He really was. Lance was one of the, they talk about the greatest announcers of all time, and it's Jim Ross. Well, Jim is great, but,
oh, yeah.
And somebody would say Tony Schiavone or somebody say Bob Caudle or who's the guy out of Texas? What was his name? You remember that?
Mark Lawrence.
Yeah. Or Gordon Soley.
Right.
But I would put Lance ahead of all those guys, because Lance announced in a way that he wasn't trying to sell something else. He wasn't trying to sell like they do in WWE. He wasn't trying to sell a pay-per-view, or he wasn't trying to sell insurance, or he's trying to sell the match, because you could do it back in those days. And Lance wouldn't talk excessively, because I hate an announcer said, oh, that's an arm drag. Well, hell, I can see it's an arm drag. He didn't have to tell me about it. I know what it is. But Lance would actually lay out and let you watch And then he would talk about, well, he looks like he's getting a little bit winded or tired, but he made you actually, to me, he made you feel the match. Because I think Lance got his start in radio first, and then he branched over to TV. But in radio, you will learn you need to detail the scene so they can understand it, so they can see it through radio. And
Yeah.
and he would lay out and let you enjoy the match instead of speaking like as fast as they can speak. This is what I don't like about AEW. They have a 3 or a 4 or 5 man booth sometimes. For what? I don't know. Because, and I miss half of the stuff they say because they're trying to, and because they don't have any kind of a font. Sometimes they do, but they're speaking so fast to get it in that you actually don't get what they're trying to tell you. But anyway, I did like the way Lance was. He would announce that match and he would give the times and going in for this is a record so far. This is beat anything else. And he would keep the people in the arena updated on what you were doing because he had never seen it either. Somebody tried to tell me, oh, there was another match that went 3 hours and something and had something like 40 falls. I said, bullshit. They said somebody that this guy, I forgot his name now. He used to be an old timer in Tennessee. It went 3 hours. I said, that guy couldn't stand up for 3 hours, let alone wrestle a match. You can't tell me, no, they had this 3 hour match. They said, oh, yeah, it happened. I don't believe it. But I do believe that 26 falls, and the time didn't matter. It was the falls. I think 26 falls is a record as far as I know. And I've never heard anything different. So anyway, yeah, it was scheduled for 8 falls and maybe 20 minutes. We go 26, and it was an hour and 5 minutes or something. The official time said 55 minutes. We went longer than that. But that's all made up too. So who knows what it was, but we did go 26 falls.
So just the final match for Victory Road, your favorite match, no DQ match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Sting defeats Jeff Hardy in a minute 28 seconds with the Scorpion Death Drop. He had to forcefully hit him with it because Jeff Hardy was a little inebriated during the match.
Yep.
And Bischoff even comes down to try to see if he's okay to wrestle. Sting and Brian Hebner are like, maybe we'll see. And then once Jeff got close to them, they could see that he couldn't wrestle. Should they even let the match happen?
Well, they had to have the match happen because they had advertised it. I mean, if you come back out and said, oh, we couldn't allow the match to happen because Jeff Hardy was inebriated or under the influence of drugs, you can't do that. I mean, and your fans get mad at you. I mean, they bought the pay-per-view, and some of them may have bought because of that match.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so if you're not even going to have the match and he's inebriated, wouldn't you have known that before he went out down that ramp?
You would think so. Yep.
Now it's not a Jeff Hardy problem. Now it's management problem. If you're going to allow him to go down when you knew that he was in a bad way, then see, most of the heat comes off Jeff. Then it goes right onto the promotion. It goes right on to management. And I kind of felt sorry for Bischoff because he was trying to save it as best he could.
Yep.
And I'm glad he told Sting, he said, just take him down and lay on him, and I'll tell the referee to count. It was horrible. It really was, and it was pathetic to see. But this is another thing. TNA knew what they were getting when they booked Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were getting. And why did they book him? Why do you think they booked him?
Popular. He's over.
Dixie wanted him. In any way she could get him. She wanted him. I don't think, and I like Dixie, I do, but she so I'm not saying ignorant, but unaware of the wrestler lifestyle. You know, you can book a wrestler and he could be fine 1 minute, 10 minutes later he's all over the place. She didn't know how that worked. But there's been several times that I had to go look for Jeff while I was there. One time he was in the car asleep, all messed up. He was, I beat on the window like that. Get up, get up, get up, get in there, get on. And I pushed him through the wrong door anyway. I said, just go on the floor. They'll find you. And I pushed him in. Then he went in there. And the match went an extra 10 minutes because we couldn't find him.
Wow.
So, but they knew well, full and well, what they were getting when they got Jeff Hardy. Now, Jeff's a great guy. Even when he's messed up, he's still a great guy. He's not aggressive. He's not mean. He don't want to fight you. But he's a great performer when he's straight. What I'm afraid that he would try to get in there and do some of his stuff that he would have to really extend himself to do some of that stuff he does. But if he was under the influence, it'd be very easy for him to break his neck. Now, when you look in a legal capacity at it, what if he got up there and he fell off and he broke his neck? Then the insurance company don't want to pay. Then you got to sue. And then he's got a broke neck. He's laid up. But then the heat still comes back on the promotion because they knew his background. They knew his track record. And they knew his track record after he had gotten in TNA. He'd pulled this before. So they got exactly what they paid for. And they got the version of Jeff, who is unpredictable, by the way.
And it's funny, the crowd was yelling bullshit and all this other stuff. And Sting is like, I agree.
Yeah.
TNA had to apologize. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Well, I'm going to blame Jeff. And then I'm going to blame TNA. And I actually feel sorry for Sting that he had to catch the end result of it. I mean, it was, I don't know. Here's the thing that nobody ever talks about is when he was released by WWE. When was he released?
Recently. Do you mean the last time?
No. Before this. It was in 2008, 2009, or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Right after 2009, 2010, yeah.
You
and
know,
he was in the main event for a while.
They released him without the 90-day no compete clause. That wasn't even in there. They said go.
Why?
They wanted to get rid of him.
Wow.
I heard that they were so afraid that he was going to die on their watch. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. So they released him, and they just waived the 90-day no competes. That's why he showed up so soon in TNA, because there was no compete clause. They just waived it. You can go wherever you want to go. They just wanted him out. You never heard that before, right?
No, I don't think so. That's weird. Because
usually
they hold you, you know. They
didn't want to hold him. Because if he had still died, if he had died in that 90 days, it's on WWE's watch. They just waived him and say go. They just wanted him gone. So that speaks, and that's why I say when WWE, when TNA got him, they were well aware of the damaged goods they were getting. Now, if he wanted to, he could turn in, just 5-star matches if he wanted to.
Oh yeah,
but he can't do it if he won't stop using whatever he was using. I don't think he was doing cocaine, but because he was
relaxed.
Whatever he was,
sedatives
or whatever he was doing. But he wasn't. And then again, remember I said that he wasn't aggressive. Wasn't mean. He's a very quiet guy anyway. Jeff, you wouldn't know he was in the room because he didn't speak up. He didn't try to monopolize a conversation like you do. People, you see how much this guy's talking. He's trying to monopolize everything I say. But a great guy, great performer. And it's, to me, I don't say this lightly, but it's a wonder that Jeff is still with us. Because I think it was at one time, and I've never been around him, but I've heard so many stories about his drug use that if I heard tomorrow that he had died because of OD or something. Well, I don't want to hear that news, but I wouldn't be surprised, nor would anybody else, I don't think, that's followed Jeff and the rest of the biz for a while.
You want to answer some fan questions? We got a couple of good ones.
Oh, I guess. Who is
Greg R says, "Can I still donate
I
to Amelia's Law?"
I don't like that guy.
Oh.
What do you say?
So can I still donate to Amelia's Law?
No, there's no need to do that. We got that straightened out. I appreciate that. And you know what Amelia's Law is, John?
Yes. Yep.
Well, for the ones who don't know, my granddaughter, Amelia, she got killed in a car wreck 2012 by a drunk driver, and he had a rap sheet like 15 pages long. Yeah. And he was a drug user, and she was going back to school. After school was out, she was going back to get her pom-poms to go to cheerleader practice, and he was driving, and he just went across 3 lanes of traffic and hit her head on and killed her. And that's the worst I've ever hurt ever in my life. I mean, I didn't hurt this way when my mother died, my father died. But to lose that girl, and she was a beautiful girl. And the only thing I can say about it is that it was instant. She didn't have time to be scared or anything, but still, I mean, I don't even like to think about it. But an Amelia's Law was supposed to be to take some of these guys that they have on these DUIs.
Yep.
And when they come out, put a bracelet on them, an anklet or something that monitors their drug use or their blood, drugs in their blood. I think it monitors it every 5 minutes. And if it goes up, even drinking, it goes up. It goes off somewhere. There's a record being kept of it. And maybe they can track the guy down and see where he is. And it's in effect. But what they started debating, I even went to the state capitol in Nashville and sat down with the sponsor of the bill, and we were talking about it. And he said something, they may have some pushback on it. And I did say, I said, well, I don't know what it's going to take for your daughter to get killed or the Speaker of the House's son to get killed, or what's it going to take? If you put yourself in your constituents' shoes, which that's what I was,
yep,
you may understand the nature of my concern. It was too late to do anything about Amelia. May not be too late to do something about some other kid. But thankfully, one other thing, I hate to say this really, the guy who hit my Amelia, that guy, he died too. And I don't ever want to say I'm glad he died, but I'm glad he died. Absolutely. Because the mess I was in, I mean, I went crazy. I was literally, if I'd have found out that he had lived, and I even hate to say this, and I'm not a violent guy, but I would have found the hospital and walked in and put a bullet right here. I hate to say that, and I don't know if I'd have done that, but I was in that zone. I mean, what else What else could be worse than that?
Yep, I agree.
So, and he takes something from me, I'll take something from him. Now, I'm not even religious, that's what it says in the Bible. But maybe we've done some good because my daughter, Amanda, she works closely with Mothers for Drunk Driving on the national scale. And I hope that if you want to donate to something, people donate to that. Donate to something that's actually going to help normal people. I mean, no need for these people to get out and talking about drunk driving. I was just talking to, I don't know who I was talking to, but it was about Tammy Sitch.
Yeah, bad.
Tammy Sitch and it's in Florida. I'm in Florida now too. But I think it was last week. I think she just drove down the road and just hit a guy sitting at a stop sign. He was 75 years old and killed him. And I'm sure she was drinking, and I'm sure she probably had drugs in her system. Now, they need to take, and I love Tammy, but enough is enough. And she brought all this on herself. So maybe she should be taken out of circulation for a long time.
Yeah.
Because if you let them out and they have a history of doing, she's been arrested 17 times, 7 DUIs. I mean, most people that have it, and you know, she didn't have a driver's license with 7 DUIs.
No.
But she's out there driving, drunk, and doped up. And I'm not saying that's for sure, but that's her MO. And think of the guy's family. He's gone forever. I don't know. This world sometimes really, really baffles me. So I try not to think about it any more than I have to. But anyway, I appreciate that. Asking the question about Amelia's Law and can they donate? And I appreciate that, but there's nothing to donate to. Thank you, sir.
You want to completely change gears. Better booker, Cornette or Russo?
Oh, I think Jimmy's Russo's not a booker.
Yeah.
He's a writer.
Creatively, who do you think's better?
I think Jimmy's better telling the story. I do think that. I think, but Vince is just tireless, though. He will work from sun up to sundown. He will work ungodly hours, and he needs to. And I still like Vince. I still get along with him, but I think he has a problem with pacing. You know, pacing. You got to have pacing in everything. Even a movie has to have pacing. You can't shoot the wad before you get ready to shoot the wad. I mean, because you've already shot it. So one time he had this match. It was a cage match, and it was like somebody had this big fight. He wanted to have a cage. Then he said, "I tell you what, why don't we put barbed wire over the cage?" Okay. And then he said, "Well, why don't we do?" And then I forgot something else. He wanted to put something else in there, and I said, "Vince, you got a gimmick on top of a gimmick on top of a gimmick. I mean, you got the cage match. Now you're going to put barbed wire up there too." And then I forgot what else he wanted to put in there. I says, "Don't you think that's a little excessive?" "Oh, well, yeah, it may be." But the match still had barbed wire on top. He pulled back one, but he kept the barbed wire. I don't know. But see, booking is not really that hard. If you say me and you go into the ring, John,
Yep.
and the first thing I listened when I was say I was going to book next week's card, I'd listen to the reaction of the fans to you, and say I'm not in the match, but say another guy, and then I would listen to the fans' reaction to the other guy, see if it's positive or negative, but kind of strong. Now, that's what I want to enhance. So, and I will tell the story no matter who wins. If you beat him, he's going to get you after the belt anyway. In Puerto Rico, I usually beat most of my heels, and they had more heat when they left the ring than they had before or after the match or during the match. So it's a formula that's constantly changing, and you got to be on top of your fans. Remember a question: where did the term marks first start?
Yeah. Where?
Do you know?
Carnivals, right?
Well, not necessarily carnivals, but back in the Great Depression days, you had a lot of people just wandering around, couldn't get a job, or they were living on the street. And a lot of them got jobs in the carnival. A lot of them did, but the term marks came from when, say, people would go to a city and they were starving to death. And they would just go up and knock on the door and ask for something, if they had any bread, or did they have anything that they could eat. And if the people were, wanted to help them, they'd give them whatever they could spare. And they would go out in front of the house, not all of them, and they would mark like an X in front of the house. Now, they didn't have asphalt pavements back then, so it was in the dirt. They would mark an X. And the X meant if another homeless guy or hungry guy or people would come down the street, they would see the X in front of the house because it was marking that house that could help them. Thus the term mark.
Mark. Yeah.
They would mark it. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's what an old timer told me one time, and nobody's told me any difference. So, and it's been around 100 years, that term mark. And, of course, and then that went to the carnival. This guy's a mark. So, and a mark in the carnival meant, well, you can take his money. All the shows ever rigged anyway. So here's a mark that we can take his money without any problem. So, any more questions?
Oh, we got a bunch. I don't know if you want to. I know we're past your breaking point here, but we got a ton. I don't know if you want to take a couple more.
Well, take a couple more.
Ivan Santos, thoughts on Ray Gonzalez in Puerto Rico?
I was just looking at a picture of him. I wish I could put a picture up here. And this is what it's what it's relevant to. I'll get it out in a minute. On AEW 2 weeks ago, they had the guy named
Wheeler, Utah, yeah.
Wheeler, Utah. And he was bleeding pretty bad, and which modern day fans aren't used to. And I pulled up a picture of me and Ray Gonzalez, and I looked at it. I went, my God. He looked like he'd been in a car wreck. He bled so much. I mean, but that was just a day at the office in Puerto Rico. I mean, it was blood city. Except for me. I never would do that too much because I was a wussy. So, but Ray Gonzalez, great talent. He was like the Puerto Rican Ric Flair. Good interview, good looking guy. And he understood the business. Now, a lot of Puerto Rican wrestlers have that macho image. They want to be tough. But see, Ray was never like that. Ray would do what it took to get the angle over. And I loved that guy. I loved it when I worked with Carlos back in before 2000. I was working for Carlos. And then I jumped to another company. And then after about a year over there, I brought him over. And that island came alive because we teased it just enough that they knew it was him, but they didn't know it was him. So when I brought him over, under a mask, and I called him Ray Phoenix. And Ray in Spanish, I mean in English it's a name, R-A-Y, but Ray in Spanish is king. So and his name is Ray Gonzalez. So I called him Ray Phoenix, and they was trying to put two and two together, and but we did a hell of a run with that. Hell of a run. So, and I finally booked a big show at the Roberto Clemente Coliseum, 16,000. We
Pretty
actually
good.
turned them away, and they beat a door down and came in anyway. We probably had 18,000 people in the building that night. I was just looking at a picture just from just a camera shot, packed, jammed. So, but anyway, Reagan's always a lot of respect for that guy because he runs a store now because his father was like a store owner, and now Ray runs a store and wrestles sometimes, not that much anymore, but he's a great talent.
Do you remember Flash Flanagan? He'll be at the
I
show
do.
as well. Remember Flash?
I do remember Flash. Remember him well. I booked him down there. I think he stayed down there about 2 years because Flash is the type of guy. You know, a lot of guys go to Puerto Rico, they get homesick. And because you can only drive around that island so many times, it's only 30 miles wide. It's about 100 miles long, but you can just drive around it, and then you start in a certain spot, and you can drive all around the island, and you keep driving, you'll come back to that spot. You just drive all the way around the island. But I always liked Puerto Rico. See, I thought when I first went down there, the people, you know, they didn't like me because I had such great wrestling ability. Then I found out, no, they really hated me for what I would say about the island because I was the first American to go down there and openly trash talk the island. I told them that, hell, then nobody spoke English and they ought to be cut off from everything until they learn the English language, and the Spanish language is primitive, and the men are like, you know, effeminate gay guys, and women are nothing more than unpaid, you know, call girls. And oh my God. Well, I think about it now, what I said, no wonder they got mad. I just trashed them all. So, and that's why I said I enjoyed working down there, except for the times they wanted to kill me. I didn't enjoy that too much. Because sometimes we'd leave an arena and they'd follow us out. They'd follow us 15, 20 miles down the road. And everybody's got a gun, so I'm not going to stop and make a stand. So they could very easily shoot me, and I'd never know who it was. Because I didn't want any lead in my leg or my head. So I just ran away. But anyway, I enjoyed Puerto Rico, especially my last tour there, because we got the fans under control, got better security, and I wasn't even working. I was just booking. And somebody say, how'd you come up with the ideas? This is how I'd come up with my ideas. I'd get to the building on Saturday night. I don't have an idea of what we're going to do. Kind of, and maybe, you know. And then I would go out there and I'd feel the crowd a little bit. Then I'd go order me 2 pina coladas and 2 medallia beers. And I would drink them before I started telling anybody what to do. Match is supposed to start at 8:30. Nothing starts on time in Puerto Rico. Nothing. So 8:30 means like 10 after 9 or 9:18. It's whenever you get ready to start. And everybody understands that. So when I start giving it out, I'm feeling pretty good, and everybody else is feeling pretty good. So we go after it. And sometimes those crowds are thunderous. I mean, it's a good feeling to book a sellout and just listen to the fans, knowing that they're enjoying what everybody works so hard to get. So, but back to Ray Gonzalez, great guy. He's been on top down there, I don't know, probably close to 20 years. And he can still go, but he's not interested in it anymore. So, any more questions? Let's take one more and we'll go.
One more question here. Had to be scary wrestling in Puerto Rico after Bruiser Brody was murdered there. Were some of the boys actually scared to work there after the incident?
Everybody left. See, when I left, this was in 1988. I didn't go back to 94, I think.
Wow.
because I didn't. Well, first of all, I didn't want to. Second of all, it died because of all the bad publicity about that. The business just died. And Carlos called me a couple of times, wanted me to come back. I wasn't interested. I mean, I wasn't working anywhere else either because there was nowhere to work really except for independent shows. But I didn't want to go to Puerto Rico and put up with it. I just didn't feel like going. And a lot of guys, they boycotted it because of that very reason. You know, Ric Flair tells people he was there when the Bruiser Brody incident happened. You ever heard him say that?
No, that's weird. He was not, right?
No.
Tony
He
Atlas
wasn't
was.
there. Yeah, Tony Atlas was. I saw Tony about a year ago. I saw him. But Tony was there. And who else was? Samuel Vega was there. And some of the Puerto Rican guys were there. But I don't know how many American guys were really there, except for it was me and Bruiser and Tony Atlas, I think. Bobby Jaggers was there and Dan Crockett, I think. And I remember the night it happened. It's in my book. You know, stayed up all night. And finally I talked to Barbara. I mentioned that earlier. Talked to her about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a crazy night. And of course they said, you know, if you go testify, this, that, and the other, and this rumor started, are they going to get you and this, that, and the other. And it's a scary place anyway, because, you know, they have like 1,000 murders a year down there. 1,000. Can you imagine that?
No.
It's 30 miles wide and 100 miles long, and they end up having 1,000 murders, mostly drug related. So just goes to show you, if you mess around in the wrong spot, you're gonna get hurt. Plus, you're an American, and that doesn't help you either. So, all right, we're about to the end of it.
Yes. You want to wrap things up, Dutchy boy?
Well, I'm glad everybody. I don't know how many people we had in here. I want to tell the 7 or 8 people.
I was
people
way
who
more
were
than
in
that.
the people who were in the room enjoyed you being here, and we're going to try to do this on a weekly basis where we can talk about anything, and we'll talk about the pay-per-views that TNA has had, because there is an undercurrent of interest in that situation that we will try to cover. And of course, we'll take any and all questions about this crazy world we call professional wrestling, because I like to talk about it. And what me and John are doing here is what wrestlers do going up and down the road. They just talk. And if you get a good talker in the car and maybe 2 differing opinions, you know, trips can be really short. I mean, you can't get differing opinions where somebody gets mad. I've seen that happen too. But so we're going to try to do this on a weekly basis, and I enjoy answering questions answering questions. And if you got a question, whether it's good or bad, the worst question is one that's not asked. So, but when you do ask a question, be civil, which everybody wants to know. I'm glad to see that. And we'll be back next week at the same time, same place. And I will advertise this a little better this time on my Facebook page and on my Twitter page. And so we're on YouTube too also, right?
Yes, yes.
We're on YouTube and Facebook. So if you enjoy it, let me know. And if you got any questions, send them. We'll answer them sometime. So until next week, John, you did a great job. And I would like to say, I want all real Americans within the sound of my voice, please rise, put your hand over your heart, and say along with me, we the people. See you next week.